Back up in the house, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, first thing this morning, on my way to church. And on my drive to church, of course I'm going to have something to talk about, because this is what I do. Every time I hop in the vehicle, I got something to talk about. Whether it's a loaf of bread or a vlog or something else, you can always rely on me to provide a few minutes of entertainment, I hope, at the very least. And if it's not entertaining, then at least I hope I give you something to think about that you haven't considered before. Today, the thing I want to talk to you about is the Philosopher's Stone. More specifically, I want to tell you where it is. And I want to tell you how you can get your hands on it. No, this is not clickbait. Yes, I'm aware that people have been searching for the Philosopher's Stone for literally thousands of years. No, I don't think I'm delusional when I tell you that I know where it is. In fact, I'm probably not the only person who knows where it is, but I haven't heard anybody else talk about it in this way, so I'm going to talk to you about it in this way. Now, first things first, if you don't know what the Philosopher's Stone is, let me explain. Throughout history, there has been talk of a device, or an artifact, if you will, that can take worthless metals like brass and copper and transform them into precious metals like gold. This is also a process or a science called alchemy, the transmutation of base metals into precious metals. And at the heart of this practice is the Philosopher's Stone, a much sought after relic which facilitates this process. So now you probably see why I had to offer a disclaimer and tell you that no, this is not clickbait, this is not a false promise, I'm not gassing you up, I'm not feeding you stories. I am totally serious when I say that I know where it is and I know how to get it. And I'm also serious about telling you where it is and showing you, if not the path to it, then at least a path to it. So without further ado, let's get right into it. The Philosopher's Stone is not an actual thing in the world. Surprise, surprise. And it doesn't actually turn worthless base metals into precious metals. Alchemy is not about doing this either. What we're dealing with here is an allegory or a metaphor or a symbol for something that is actually real. What we're talking about here is not transforming metals into different metals. What we're talking about is transforming feelings into different feelings, transmuting suffering and turning it into joy, bliss, satisfaction. Now, viewed through this lens, the Philosopher's Stone and alchemy becomes not a mystical or magical process, but something very real and very concrete. It becomes the practice of transforming negative emotions into positive emotions. And this, of course, is the topic that I am always circling around in these videos and on this channel, because it is a key ingredient to the art of living. To transform suffering into something valuable. To transform negative and unhelpful emotions into positive, helpful emotions. This is a great power. And so it is no wonder that our ancestors dressed up these stories with myths and allegories about a magical Philosopher's Stone or a science called alchemy. See, for a while there, I was confused because I was reading up on Jung, and it's a guy that I respect and whose work I admire greatly. Carl Jung has impacted me greatly in my life and in the way I look at myself, the world, my beliefs, and all that stuff. So when I started to learn more about Jung and I realized that he was into alchemy, I was confused. Because on the one hand, I felt Jung made so much sense, and then here he was exploring these pseudosciences. But then it started to click. It started to make sense. And I'm not sure what triggered the revelation for me, but I realized at one point or another that alchemy, like so many other spiritual and mythological things that we are familiar with is not about what it appears to be about. The practice of transmuting base metals into precious metals is a front. It's a disguise. And it's to keep the uninitiated and those who are not open-minded out of the room. And it worked for me, because when Jung started talking about that kind of stuff, I would tune out, and I would feel as if my faith in him was shaken. And so I understand why our ancient ancestors dressed all of this stuff up the way they did. It was to keep the wrong people away from it. But now here we are in the modern world with the internet and YouTube and people like myself who are big mouths and who don't care about keeping ancient secrets can come in and we can spoil the whole damn thing for you. So again, it's not about transforming base metals into precious metals. It's about transforming your own inner experience of the outside world. So where is the Philosopher's Stone? This magical device that transforms experiences. If you haven't figured it out by now, let me repeat myself like a broken record. The Philosopher's Stone is within you. It is within each and every one of us. There are as many Philosopher's Stones as there are human beings on planet Earth, because each one of us has his or her own copy of the Philosopher's Stone, buried deep, deep in the psyche somewhere. What is the Philosopher's Stone? Because obviously it's not what it appears to be. The entire story of alchemy is a disguise, and so is the Philosopher's Stone, because it's not an actual thing that's inside of you. It's not a material thing that is inside of you. It's not your pineal gland. It's not your liver. It's not an actual organ that is within you. It is a quality of the psyche known as wisdom. Wisdom is a quality of the psyche. It's not an actual tangible thing. And anybody can access wisdom. Wisdom is the most important cognitive capability a human being can realize. It is the highest potential of the human consciousness. It is greater than intelligence. It is greater than reason. It is greater than intuition. It's greater than imagination. Because wisdom is the culmination of all of these things working in harmony with each other. Wisdom gives us the ability to think clearly and to feel deeply. To see things as they truly are, or at least as close to as they truly are as we possibly can. Because as I've said in other videos, the ultimate reality is forever beyond our reach. We're separated from it by these meat suits and these limited senses and these limited minds that we have that can only perceive and apprehend so much. It's a thin sliver of the ultimate reality, but for most of us, we don't even get to access the full sliver. We twist it, we distort it, or we ignore huge parts of it. And so wisdom allows us to at least not only experience and see the full sliver as it is, but also perhaps to go beyond that sliver. Wisdom allows us to go beyond the intellect, beyond the intuition, to experience things that are not only irrational, but also beyond expression. This is the path of wisdom. Now, as you know, philosophy is literally the love of wisdom. I had a college professor try to tell me way back in the day that philosophy is the love of knowledge. This is absolutely and categorically untrue. And the fact that my philosophy professor conflated knowledge with wisdom should have been the first sign that I was in the wrong place. Because these academic philosophers are not philosophers themselves. They are scholars of philosophy. They study the history of philosophy. They study the doctrines of past philosophers. But they themselves do not practice philosophy. I don't consider myself an academic philosopher. I consider myself a true philosopher. A true philosopher in the tradition of Lao Tzu, who did not go to any formal school to learn what he learned. A true philosopher in the tradition of Socrates, who didn't go to any school to learn what he learned. A true philosopher in the school of the Buddha, who also did not go anywhere specific to learn what he learned. I'm not saying that I'm as enlightened or as wise as these people, but I'm saying I'm following their tradition and then I'm practicing philosophy. I love wisdom. I consider it the highest good that I can possibly achieve, and I pursue it tirelessly, and I look for it everywhere that I can, and I try to live my life according to the direction of wisdom. So wisdom is the quality that allows us to transmute our experiences. Because when we look at the world through the lens of wisdom, and when we channel wisdom from within and we look out at the world, experiences that trigger negative reactions no longer do so, because we see them from a different vantage point. We see them from a place that is beyond ideas of good and bad, to paraphrase Rumi. We see them from a vantage point that is beyond duality, beyond our own petty and subjective concerns, and we see things in a totally new way. And from this perspective, very little is purely bad, unfortunate, or negative. And so our reactions change accordingly. Our reactions change accordingly. We transmute our experience. Suffering becomes satisfaction. Disappointment becomes awe. We regard failures as lessons in the school of life, and we search for wisdom and insights in everything that we do and experience. And that's what the Philosopher's Stone is all about, and that's what alchemy is all about. It's not about turning brass into gold and getting rich. It's inner alchemy. It's what happens when you start to get angry and suddenly you realize you're getting angry and anger stops. And then anger turns to wonder. Because how fucking amazing is it that in the very initial throes of my fury, I can stop and be calm. After 30 years of being ruled by my temper, how amazing that I can actually steer myself away from that kind of reaction, even after the reaction begins. There's the Philosopher's Stone for you. Because that anger turns to wonder, and it does so rapidly. Jealousy. Boredom. Anxiety. Hey, just a couple days ago I came to work and I'm emailing back and forth with my boss who's in another province. And then 20 minutes later I get an email from another colleague outside of my province, and she tells me our boss just got fired. And then 2 seconds later I get another message saying, call this number, the big boss wants to talk to you. I had a split second of panic and anxiety. In my mind was one loud, panicked question. What are you going to do after she fires you? What are you going to do after the big boss fires you? What are you going to do, Ollie? How are you going to support your family? How are you going to make a living? This question just stormed through my mind, and for a split second, I was very, very worried. I say a split second because by the time I walked into the meeting room, picked up the phone and called the big boss, I had a huge grin on my face. Because what am I going to do? I'm going to do what I've always done. I'm going to keep on keeping on. Now, of course, I didn't get fired, so, in a way I was almost disappointed, because if I had gotten fired, it would have given me an opportunity to practice what I've been preaching for so long. Because I feel like I've had a pretty blessed and easygoing life in the last few years. And part of me is not eager, but curious to see how I will handle true misfortune and true setbacks. Because I have minor setbacks and minor misfortunes here and there, but I've never been fired my whole life. So I thought, well, here we go. Here's a chance to practice what I preach. So I took that anxiety and that panic and I flipped it. And I was eager eager to be fired, because this was going to be a way for me to prove to myself that this is not just idle chit-chat, and it's not just speculation. It's real and concrete, and it's a way to live. So again, if you want to learn more about alchemy, or if you want to find the Philosopher's Stone, go within yourself. Because there may be a way to transmute base metals into precious ones. I don't know. I'm not that smart. I don't have the background to tell you whether that's possible or not. What I can tell you is that it is possible to transmute negative and unhelpful emotions into positive, helpful emotions. And this isn't fooling yourself or tricking yourself. It's merely looking at the world through a different lens and using a different engine to filter information. Instead of filtering information through your subjective biases or through your intellect, you filter it through the lens of wisdom. You channel wisdom from within by bringing your mind and heart into alignment. And then the transmutation will happen all on its own. I've been an alchemist for 4 years now, and I didn't even know it. But there you have it. And I firmly believe that anybody can do this. There's nothing mystical or magical about it. And take it from me, I'm not special. There's nothing special about me. I have nothing to distinguish me from anybody else on this planet. So if I can do it, if I can transmute my anger into wonder, if I can transmute my anxiety into excitement, believe me when I say you can do it too. Anyway, that's it for me. Thanks for joining me on another drive. It certainly helps to pass the time. Once again, my name is Ollie. This is The Outsider's Perspective, and don't forget to live well, my friends.